Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Mel. Hey,
Hello.
everyone. Hey, Cool Gamer. Hey, Linda. What's up, y'all? Probably have to wait a second or two because I started it like a minute and a half early. So give a couple minutes for people to get in here. But how's everyone doing? My kiddo got oral surgery yesterday, and boy, was that fun, let me tell you. uh He was so worried. Out of all the things he was worried about being goofy. Like I
Aw.
showed him I showed him a video of, did you ever see that video of that girl who got her wisdom teeth taken out and her brothers took her, and
Um,
they convinced her that there was a zombie apocalypse going on, and she totally was, like,
no.
all in, so oh my god, it's so good. Hey, Butterfly Kisses, hey, Tia. What's up, Tia? I love your hair, girl. Hey, Thistle. Um, so this girl, her brothers bro it was so awful they did it to her, but it was perfect. They even had it on the Ellen show. But, she's under, gets out from under anesthesia, and they get, like, I guess, like, a recording, hey, Amanda, of, the alert system, like, and they're playing it on the radio, and like, "This is the national alert system. We wanna let you know that," or like, and they explain that there's some virus going around and that people are exhibiting cannibalistic behaviors and all kinds of stuff, and she's like, "What? Cannibals?" Like, she's totally buying it, and then they pull up to the house, they call their mom, and the mom is totally in on it too. She's like, "Get to the house. We gotta grab some stuff."
Oh
Uh,
my god.
so they pull up, and they're like, "You need a weapon," and they hand her, like, one of them little, like, grabby things that old people use, you know what I'm talking about? And she's like, "What am I gonna do with this? We need guns!" And they're like, "Funfetti or chocolate cake?" She's like, "Why does that matter?" They're like, "This is what we're gonna be living off of, funfetti or chocolate cake." She's like, "Funfetti." They're like, "The
Oh
cat or
yeah.
the dog?" So they said the cat or the dog. She's like, "The cat, you idiot. The dog is old and dying." And then they oh man, they're putting like garden rakes in there, and she's like, "Why do we have this?" She's like, "Should we go to Costco?" She's like, "No, it's gonna be a bloodbath in there." And she just is totally like believing that the zombie apocalypse was happening, and it was just awesome.
You'll have to
Like,
send that to me. That sounds really funny.
it was hilarious. Yeah, he's good, Amanda. Thank you. He was so worried about being goofy. That was like his biggest fears. Like, he didn't want to be goofy, and he's a
Well, yeah.
worrywart. So
You showed him that. Jeez.
he's
Oh
starting to do
man.
that too. Doesn't it? Yeah, I it was so funny that they had it on the Ellen show. It was really good. Maybe I'll play it at the end. Um, and then what was I gonna say? Oh, so we went, and I had to explain to him like the whole process like 8 times because he's a worrywart. And then they gave him this stuff called like silly juice, which like calms him down. And then they brought him back, and then he came out and he cried for like a whole hour. Just, "I can't stop crying, Mom." Just crying. Just being so dramatic. Like, "My throat hurts so bad." Poor guy. But then after an hour, he was like ready to get in the shower. He was eating all the food, you know, all that fun stuff. So he was fine.
That's good.
Yeah. And so I've been down this Crystal Rogers rabbit hole the past few days, and
Mhm.
I need to share with y'all the rabbit hole I've been down. And by the way, guys, if hey Eddie, hey Buster, hey Tony, if you guys haven't like seen this, if you have Peacock, or think of what else it's on. It's on the Oxygen channel, but a they have a special on this whole situation, which is really good. It was like private
Mhm.
investigators that were investigating the case and kind of like did their own dive into it. You watched it, right, Mel?
I did, yeah, it's like a 7-part series though, isn't it? 5 or
It's long.
7, so
It's
it's a
I
long
think
one.
it's
I
5.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I remember recording it on, like, my TV, and then I forgot to, like, unrecord it. So I think I even might have watched them, like, out of order because it was just whichever ones were shown at in order, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah. It's still
I
relatively easy to follow either way. Like
right,
they
but
go through each thing.
right, yeah, and now it was only, like, I think I did that to whatever it came out, I watched it. And I still till this day have to go in and delete them because I keep forgetting to, like, stop the recordings. Oh, so I have it on my
Oh,
TV if
you
anyone wants to watch it.
oh, well, good. So if you guys don't know about it, then I will fill you all in. It's actually like a very popular case. It's like one of the FBI most wanted cases out there. It happened in 2017. Well, I don't know if I should start with Jason Ellis. I guess I'll start with Crystal and backtrack. But so Crystal, um, let me just pull up just so I get her age and stuff, so I know she was 30 something. I know that. All right, so on July 3rd to wait, I thought it was 2017. Was it
She was 15.
2015? Okay.
Yeah.
2015, July 3rd, 2015, Crystal Rogers goes missing. She's 35-year-old mother of 5. She was living with her boyfriend, Brooks Houck. So, hold on, let me find a picture of them so I can show you guys what they look like real quick before I continue. Just I like to have a visual, you know.
Yeah. It does help
hmm
organize my thoughts.
It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I get. Can I zoom? Oh, it's because it's on my darn. Hold on. Let me switch monitors. I have like a big extended monitor and everything is. That's Brooks on the left, and that's Crystal on the right. Um, that's Crystal Rogers. Trying to see if there's another one with her and Brooks. That's the whole family. Crystal, her mom, Tommy, her dad, her sister, and her brother.
Mhm.
Okay, so um she goes missing and her I think it was like a day later, maybe either a day or two later, her car is found on the BlueGrass Highway. I'm gonna find out right now for you. All right, so on July 3rd, 2015, she disappeared supposedly overnight. That's what Brooks told police that he went to bed and he woke up and she wasn't there, which I'll go over the whole timeline. But her and Brooks had a 2-year-old son together named Eli, and then she had, yeah, it's on Peacock. Yeah, the Peacock show is very, very good. It's a good, if you want to, they like catch up on everything. So, at the time of her disappearance, Houck is the last person to have seen her. He says she was on her phone playing games at their home and he went to bed. And that when he woke up the next morning, she was gone and her car wasn't in her driveway. He said he didn't really worry about it because sometimes she goes out with her cousins and things like that. Um, Her family began to worry after multiple attempts to contact her that day. So 2 days later, on July 5th, Crystal's Chevy Impala was found parked with a flat tire by mile marker 14 of the Bluegrass Parkway. The keys were still in the ignition, and her purse and cell phone were also found inside. And she was reported missing by her mother, Sherry Ballard, the same day. Sherry said she pulled up to tell Hal. Brooks Houck that she was going to file a missing persons report, and he said something along the lines of like, "Do whatever you got to do."
Mm-hmm. And then went
Awesome,
to a Fourth
Buster. I
of July
promise
party.
it's good. Yeah, yeah. So his timeline of the night kind of goes something like this. One of the daughters, I think it was Kylie, was going to her dad's house, and they told her that they had a babysitter for the night and they were going to go out supposedly on like a date. And then apparently he and or maybe it was the youngest daughter. I think the other two were older. I can't remember if
Yeah, so
Kylie is.
I think it had to do too with the kids would have been upset if they knew that they were taking
Yeah.
Eli with them, so they lied about
Yeah.
getting a
That's why
babysitter.
that's what he said. That's what he says in the interview that they lied to
Yeah,
her because the police were like, "Why would you tell her that if you were bringing the baby?" What, like asking all these questions they thought were weird. And he said they lied to her because they would get jealous that they were taking the baby with them and she would want to go or whatever. Which I can
right.
understand too because that's how kids are. And they go to his mother's farm. Um and they go feed the cows, and then he lights a fire there. They like have a little fire or whatever, which I find
Mhm.
kind of suspicious. And then they go home. I think it was around midnight because that's when that call was made to Steve Lawson. So apparently they're driving home around midnight. Him and Crystal are in the car together, according to Brooks. And um, he makes a call to one of his employees, Stephen Lawson. And what's interesting about that is
Mhm.
Joseph Lawson, I believe, is this man who was arrested along with
Yeah.
Brooks, is the son of Stephen Lawson.
Yeah, he's the one that
Oh, it
was
was
arrested like a
raining.
week prior
Yeah, he was arrested a
for
week prior to
conspiracy.
Brooks for conspiracy to commit murder. So,
Yep.
um, which I'm kind of curious about because supposedly he calls Steve on the phone while he's in the interview, and he's like, "Hey man, what did I call you for last night?" And Steve's like, "Oh yeah, you or what did he? I forget if Steve called him or he called Steve, but it was like something he had to ask Crystal." And he said, "Oh yeah, I'll ask Crystal." And the cop said, "Well, if Crystal was sitting right next to you, why why would you have to say you would ask her?" And he said, "Oh, I just said that because I didn't want to like she didn't want to be bothered with that at that time of night or something along those lines." So,
Right.
but I didn't know it was raining, Glenda. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So it was raining that night on their little date or whatever. Huh,
Mhm.
when he made a fire. They never really I haven't heard them mention that. I'm gonna pull up the farm real quick because I want to kind of get an idea of
I
what it looks
wonder
like.
what night is this the 4th of July or the 5th of July that this
It
fire
was
supposedly happened?
on the 3rd. Hey, K-Brace.
Okay.
It was on the 3rd. Hey, B&B. It was on the yeah, July 3rd, the night of July 3rd, I believe.
Going into the 3rd or going into the 4th?
Going into the 4th.
Okay.
All right. So here's their farm, I believe. There's a fence. I wonder how much of this they own. Like if they own all of this or what, like maybe it's over here that they own. Oh, they probably own this.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of land. That's where they burn stuff. That's the farm. Yeah, it was really good, Glenda. I was just talking about that, how well they did on that. So, he they immediately, start looking into him because he was the last person to see her. And he didn't really offer once to search or help or really do anything for the family. So on July 8th, he was brought into the Nelson County Sheriff's Office for questioning. And probably about like an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours into questioning. And he tells that whole story. Like, we went on a date night, we went to the farm, I did a fire, then we went home, I went to bed, and that she usually stays up because the baby, well, I don't know, I guess want to stay up for a little bit. Because it was like past 12 o'clock, and the cop's like, your baby, like, is up and, all running around at this time? And he's like, oh yeah, he's crazy at that time, blah, blah, blah. But, probably about 2 hours into his interview, Brooke's brother calls him, and it sounds very set up to me, like they had pre-planned it. I'll play it, but it sounds like they totally planned it, and he calls and basically tells him, like, "Hey, man, stop talking, whatever." But they say it in, like, a way that makes him look innocent, so I'll play the little clip for you guys so you have an idea. But basically, because of that, Brooks, stops being questioned and leaves. And Nick, his brother, is a cop, which makes it even more interesting. And get this. So Nick, in my opinion, will likely be arrested soon because dummy Nick sold a gun to a cop. Was it like an FBI agent that he sold it to?
Yeah,
Did they say?
yeah, I think though, like, they knew it was him. He used a fake name to sell it, but I think they also were potentially undercover while trying to sell it or trying to buy it. But like the cops knew that it was Nick trying to sell it. He didn't know
Yeah.
that it was an FBI agent trying to buy it. But either way,
Yep.
it went through and they ended up selling this gun to the officers.
Yeah. Hey, Jenna. Yeah, so he sells a gun to the officers. Well, I should have went over Tommy real quick. All right, so before I get to that, Crystal's dad. This has many layers to it, guys. So pay attention, get your notebooks out, whatever you got to do. But
I will say
Chris,
too, it was raining. I looked up the weather
oh
for that
wow,
night, and it actually was raining that night, but it was about 73 degrees and raining. And it was windier right around 7, but then the wind went down. So they
that's
got
crazy.
0.81 inches. Is that right? Inches or centimeters? Whatever. Either way. So it was raining.
Wow. All right, so Crystal goes missing. Her car's found on the parkway, keys in the ignition, all that stuff. And then her dad, who is her number one supporter, like all, looking for her, doing whatever he got to do to find his daughter. I mean, this man was like on the forefront. He even had his own, like just a file box filled with evidence, like DVDs from CCTV cameras. I mean, everything. Okay, Tia. And he was, in my opinion, getting close to finding answers. And then her dad's murdered a year later. Like, unbelievable. He goes hunting with his grandson. They have property, like a big stretch of land right off the Bluegrass Parkway where they go hunting every year. So somebody had to know that he would be there or was
Yep.
watching him. And he went hunting with his grandson. And somebody shot him with a rifle from like a would you call it? Like a clearing or like a wooded
They had m
area.
Yeah, they, like, had made a clearing within, like, the tree line that was in between the hunting property and the Bluegrass Parkway. There was, like, a tree line, like, a thicker tree line, and they had made, like, a clearing, whoever did this, to shoot him onto the property from, like, the Bluegrass Parkway. So,
Yeah, basically they could pull up on the highway, pull on the side of the highway, run in these trees and shoot him and then run back to their car and leave. And there was like cut limbs, like they cut the limbs to like make a little like viewing area so they can see him
mhm,
and shoot him. So now well, I don't know if they got this gun a long time ago or just recent, but I'm guessing it's just recent because it's now being tested. But Nick
yeah.
Houck, Brooks's brother, who was a cop. Now he got fired from his job for interfering in an investigation for telling his brother to stop answering questions. Um, he sells a cop to an agent, or I mean, sells a gun to an agent. I said sells a cop to an agent. He sells a gun. He sells a gun to an agent, not knowing it's an agent, and then uh, they're starting to test it. They have 4 of the 5 things tested that you have to test, and they're still waiting on the last thing to come through. And so far, the 4 things match. So they believe that the gun that he sold to the agent is the gun that was used in the murder of Tommy Ballard. So if we can tie Nick Howe to the murder of Tommy Ballard, then I think it's safe to say that you can tie them to the murder of Crystal.
Yeah.
And now, this is hey B Tim, hey Ava, hey Ground Up Garage. So this is the only thing that kind of gets me is, like, what do you think is the motive, Mallory, for like the murder of Crystal? Well, they
Um,
haven't found her, but I mean, we're assuming that she's been murdered.
right. Um, it's hard. I don't think that they had probably a very healthy relationship. Um, so it could be some type of DV related. I think that there's also a possibility that she could have found out something that he was doing on the shady side of things. Um, and he had to
So
kill her for that reasons. But
that that's a big like conspiracy that people think that the murder of Crystal Rogers could be in relation to the murder of Jason Ellis, which I haven't got to yet, but I'm going to explain to you now. I believe it was in 2013, 2 years before uh, Crystal Rogers is murdered. A cop, Jason Ellis, which I
mhm,
believe he was a cop with Nick Houck. So, there's a connection there. Was driving home from his shift at the end of the night when he came upon some branches and they were left in the middle of the highway. So he pulled over to clear these branches off the road, pulled over, put his lights on. And as he's pulling the branches, yeah, Jenna, it happened a while ago, but everything's kind of like coming to fruition now. Like arrests are being made, all that. So things are just starting to happen. So he gets out to clear these branches from the road because, they're blocking the highway. And as he's pulling the branches off the road, which seem like they were purposely put there for this specific reason,
mhm.
um, somebody was at, I think it was the top of a hill and he was at the bottom. Yeah, at the top of a hill from looking at the picture. They were at the top of this hill and they shot him
Yep.
with a shotgun several times.
Yeah.
And so somebody finds him on the highway and they use his radio to call for help. A couple people call for help. But It seems as though somebody cut these branches and pushed him out into the middle of the highway so that he would stop and clear them. So somebody had to have been, in my opinion, following him from work, you would think, right? Like, or just
Yeah.
following him in general.
So, like, the way I understood it was he also was a canine officer. So he would usually have his dog with him, but the dog was not with him that night. He had just made an arrest and had dropped off the person at the jail and then
Yeah.
signed out from there and was driving home. So he was literally driving from the jail to his home. Um and this was just his normal route home. So
Mhm.
I
And
know that
somebody
this
had to have known, like,
right.
he was coming, and then there had to have been someone else, like, somebody had to be following him, and then there had to have been someone else being ready to put these branches out and ready to shoot him, right? Like,
Right.
that's just how I feel like it's the only way it could have been done.
I wonder how far, like, where was that on his drive? Do we know that? Like, if it was a decent
I'm
amount
not sh
from his home?
the police station or
The
his
police
home?
station or his home? Like, because if it's closer to his house and it was like a 10-minute drive from the police station to where he was found, that would be more plausible than if it was like, 2 minutes from the police station, because that gives a lot less time and a lot
Yeah,
more, um, options for misidentifying if this was a specific hit or if this was just whoever's going to be the first person to do it. You know what I mean?
yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna look him up now and see if I can get, what his address was then, and we can map it out because I know where we can find out where the police station was, and then
Yep.
that
Do
place,
you
and
just
then
need
his
the
home.
address?
So I have him pulled up already. So
Okay.
I hit the address. He has 2 under his name.
I would just plot them all because then either way we can look and
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Okay. Let me try this one. I'm creating a project real quick on Google Earth so
No,
I
you're
can.
good. You're good. I'm gonna try not to do any crazy uh noises. I already
That's
told you
okay.
I'm also watching baseball, so
How are they
my brain
doing?
is in
Are they
knots.
caught up?
It's the bottom of the eighth. Bottom of the eighth. Nope, we're still losing 3-2, but there's one out, and they just brought up Byron Buxton. Ooh, and he got out. So now we have 2 outs in the bottom of the eighth, but we only need to score 1 to tie. So sorry for all those of you that are not baseball people.
Well, that's kind of far. The one is, but um, the one is in. They're both in Cox Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so it's the only name that comes up on um Truth Finder, but it doesn't say, like, sometimes it says like deceased and it doesn't say that. See if his wife's on here so I can make sure it's. Maybe if I look up her, I think her name was Amy.
Yeah. Let me see. Mm, yeah, Amy. Amy Brown. Oh, oh, that's weird. Is that weird?
What?
She oh, she might have remarried. I was gonna say it used to be Amy Ellis and now it's Amy Brown, but she might have got remarried.
Okay, Glenda said she. Oh, I guess
Okay,
this. Hold on.
thank you, Glenda. I was for a second there in my mind, the only thing that came up was like, oh, she just had to drop the last name, and I was like, that'd be weird.
Okay, I found
Like,
his because it says deceased. I found her,
okay.
and then I found his through there. Okay, all right, we're on to something now. Sorry, guys. Yeah, way too excited over that. Okay, sure. It says Louisville. Why is it Bloomfield? I guess I would go with this one because this is in the time frame where he was alive. Like it keeps updating with new addresses for him, even though he's not alive anymore. So I don't know why, but I'm gonna go with the one that was in his like time frame of living, which is in Bloomfield, which I think is closer. Okay, Glenda, thank you for coming. I think it okay. I think this is it.
Yep.
I didn't even know I had to screen up. Oh my god. I'm sorry guys. I'm like looking on Truth Finder at people's stuff. I think this is it. All right. Then we'll do police department. Oh, I mean that would make sense. Where's exit 32? All right, because it's right off the highway, so that would make sense. Exit 32, Bluegrass Parkway. I don't know how I'm gonna. I think there was a YMCA there. They said, or Old Something Road, Old Thorn Something Road.
Hang on. Trying to go back to that. Let's see. Exit 34.
YMCA. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can find a YMCA address that's near there.
Okay.
They say it in the 911 call. They're like Old Something Road, like old.
Bluegrass Parkway. Let me see if it's
Thorn. Old. Or, I don't know. I'm lost. I wonder if I can just tell by looking closely at the Bluegrass Parkway at the exits. Why don't we do that?
And I'm gonna.
It's a round exit, like
On to. Hang on.
I found it. I just looked up an exit and it just happened to be the one.
Oh man.
Jason Ellis murder. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, yeah. Well, what just happened? Did I just move that? I think I did that by accident. Did you see that? I just like moved it. Okay, here we go. I don't know how to get rid of that one over there, but that's Bardstown Police Department. That's exit 32, and that's close to his house.
So it was a decent amount of time where they could have potentially. See, I find that more likely that there could have been a potential for it to be a specific hit on him because it gives them more time to be able to follow him, get everything situated, and then do it then. You know
Yeah,
what I
be
mean?
like, hey man, he's on his way.
Yep.
Like,
You just left. You have this amount of time. Something along
And
those
then,
lines.
he would have had to have been he would have had to have been following him, like, all the way, in my opinion, because if he had put those branches out before he was pulling up, somebody else would have likely, "Hey, Kelly Glitter," someone else would have likely got out and pulled the branches away. So it's like somebody had to have been following him right down to the very minute, keeping track of where he was,
Right.
um, to put them out there like, okay, he's coming up the highway, we're coming up there in 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because how do you ensure that he's the one that's going to get out of his car and do that? So
Mm-hmm.
that makes me even more suspicious about Nick Houck, because it seemed like he had just left work. So if somebody's following him, they're either waiting on him to get done work, or they're going with him to work, or they're getting off at the same shift. It just, it raises questions for me. And then that would uh, possibly give a motive for the murder of Crystal, because had maybe she had found out something, or caught on, and then Tommy too, and that's why they killed him.
Right.
And so this is what I think, if they are involved, what could have happened. And this sent me down a rabbit hole last night. Okay, so did anyone ever see the documentary called The 7-5 with the cops in New York?
You were telling me about it.
So I think is either in the late 70s or like the 80s. I forget when exactly, like the year, but there was all these cops in the 7-5 district or whatever, that when they would go and do like drug busts on houses, and they would keep the drugs. They
Right.
wouldn't turn them in for evidence, and then they'd sell them. And the dudes were like making bank. I mean, just making money. And they were driving nice cars, buying houses. They were all getting messed up themselves. And there were so many cops that were involved. It was like a whole district. Like, most of the cops were involved in this. Like, they were all like, just looked the other way, didn't say anything. Everybody kind of got a piece of it type deal.
Right.
It makes me wonder if something similar was going on, and they had like a little thing where they, like, were taking money, and then here's what's weird. And this could just be because I believe he's a house flipper. He builds homes and he flips them, and then he has rental properties, which he could have been making money long before this. But in 2013, the same year that Jason Ellis is killed, Brooks Houck bought like so many properties. I mean, I at least went through 8
Yep.
or 9, just 8 or 9 just in the year 2013 that he purchased, which is a lot of properties, like, at one time to be buying. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ground Up.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
No, not much. Just figured I'd jump on for a few minutes. Might be able to help you out with this. I used to live down there.
Oh, really? So what's your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I think she was going to leave him and take the kid, and he did away with her because he didn't want the embarrassment and didn't want to pay child support. Honestly, if you want to know the truth, people down there are nuts, and he had a prominent family name in that area. So, people down there really are nuts. Trust me.
I mean, he owned a couple companies. He owns like investment properties. I mean, he owns at least 3 companies that I found. He has a lot of rentals. I know he's building houses because I know the FBI had done a bunch of searches on a lot of the properties that he had built. I mean, that could have been it. And it also makes me wonder, there is his it seems I don't know the connection with his new girlfriend, but there is a property that was under his name, but it was like under his name and then under her name and then under his name, but it was like many years before all this had happened. So there may be some connection with her, like maybe they were dating, and it seemed he moved on rather quick, because I think it was September. Well, no, because I thought it was 2017, so maybe not. But she was going around stealing signs, like for about Crystal Rogers, like missing posters. She was like stealing missing posters.
Well, in some people's minds, sympathy is a better image than a broken home. So, as crazy as that is, I used to live in Elizabethtown, which is like 30 minutes from there. I used to work in Elizabethtown. I have a cousin that actually lives in Bardstown right now and has for years. I've got an aunt that lives 20 minutes from Bardstown in a town called New Haven. All my dad's family is from that general area. So, yeah, people are crazy down there. It would shock you what people will do.
I mean, I know there has been like men that have done that, like because of custody things and all that, but like you would think that he would assume that he would be the number one suspect if he killed her and was the last to see her. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but he had a brother that was a cop, so that goes a long ways. They always look at the boyfriend unless the boyfriend's brother is a cop, and then you tend to look a little less.
Good point. So what are your thoughts on Jason Ellis then? Like, what do you think he was, or like why he was murdered?
I don't know. I never could wrap my head around that. Like, I watched the first documentary on her when however long it was out, 2-3 years ago when I watched it. And I've asked my cousin about it several times when I've been down there for family get-togethers, and she didn't really have much to say about it. She just, she said it's just weird and there's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on over there. So, I mean, that's where the Jim Beam distillery is. So if you look on any bottle of Jim Beam, it'll say Bardstown, Kentucky on it.
Yeah, they're big bourbon people, right?
That was the bourbon home. Yeah, in the United States.
And Maker's Mark is, it's not in Bardstown, but I think it's east of there a little ways, if I'm not mistaken. Out in the country, out in the middle of nowhere.
I'm trying to find the spot where his brother calls him. I'm gonna play that real quick.
The storage barns that they age the whiskey in are like right there in town. Like right in town. There's people that live right next door to them. It's weird.
All right, I'm gonna play this real quick. Well, not real quick, because I'm gonna play the Steve Lawson call, and then I'm gonna play where his brother calls, because I think they're relatively close to each other.
Hey, Steve. Hey, I can't.
All right, for context, real quick, the cop asked him why he was talking to somebody on the phone very late at night, around 12 midnight. Now, mind you, the guy he's talking to on the phone, his son was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder.
So is this was when his brother called him?
Well, this is when he calls Steve Lawson.
Okay.
His employee. And Steve Lawson, his son was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder along with Brooks. Well, Brooks was arrested for murder. And Steve Lawson was arrested with conspiracy, or not Steve, Joseph Lawson was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder because there was a phone call with Steve Lawson supposedly at around midnight, but I don't know how Joseph ties into this. Maybe he was on the phone with Joseph and Steve is just covering for his son. But he basically calls Steve and is like, he's calling him right now to say, hey man, what did we talk about again the other night?
I hear you real good. I'm gonna ask you to speak up a little bit, okay?
Okay, sir.
Hey, I was wanting to know, hey, I've got some things going on next week. I'm gonna need your help with it. Are you already booked up, or can you help me?
I haven't moved up yet. I'm still looking for a place. That's why I needed them numbers from you.
All right. Well, I can write them all down and get them there for you. But I was actually talking about doing some more work with your little skid steer and so forth. Mine's still broke down.
Well, I said, get with me tomorrow. I'm coming. I know you have a hard time hearing me because it's where I'm located at.
All right.
So just get in touch with me tomorrow and we'll see what we can do. But my question, I just want to tell you I'm sorry about everything that's going on in your life, brother, and I got you in my prayers.
I said it is a very difficult and trying time, but I appreciate you saying that. But hey, I need your help while I got you on the phone here. Do you remember the other night you called me really, really late, and I forgot what you asked me. Can you? I guess it wasn't on the phone. I might have been tired. I know it was pretty late at night. Can you remember what you asked me or what you were after? I can't remember.
Yes, sir, I can. I called to ask you for them numbers for a house.
Oh, for a rental house.
Yes, sir,
And
I did.
and what did I forgot? What did I tell you?
You told me that you would call, what's her name, Katie or whatever, she handles all that.
Crystal.
Crystal, okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
And she said she handles all that and that you would get back with me on it.
All right. Thank you so much, Nell.
Hey, if there's anything I can do,
So Steve basically says, yeah, he didn't even know her name.
That's
But
crazy.
Steve basically says, oh yeah, I called you about a rental property or whatever, but it's weird to me because his son was arrested, not him. So I don't really know what the connection is. Well, I mean, there's a connection there because it's his son that was arrested, but I don't know if he's covering for his son or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
All right, and then I'm gonna pull up where his brother calls him. I think it's like right here.
Really struggled with it, you know.
Yeah.
No. I'm up here. I know that you didn't know. I'm up here in this interview with the Detective Snow. I've been up here a good little while. I'm filling out this statement here and everything. Are you telling me that's what I need to do? I know that. But the way that I look at it is, I'm innocent. I ain't done nothing wrong. What, you know?
Tell me this doesn't sound so set up.
I know you told me innocent people got jammed up, but if you're telling me to leave, I'll get up and leave. If you want me to. I know I'm going through a lot, but I'm trying to get this guy to help me. I don't think she's ran off with some other guy. I don't believe that. You can't make me think that. And no, yeah, so do I. I'll do exactly what you're telling me to do right now. You want me to get up and leave? Man, I don't think these people got it vindictive just to skin me for no reason. Man, this is not their family. This is not. All right, thank you. He thinks y'all gonna fuck is what he thinks.
I don't know who he is.
Nick, my brother.
That's a good point, Mark. I didn't think about that. The clock is exactly at like 7 o'clock. So he probably planned it like, hey, I'm gonna call you at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm gonna call. It just sounded like it was very set up for him to be like, oh yeah, man, she probably ran off with a guy and like, oh, I'm innocent, blah blah blah.
Well,
And then they go ahead,
the only thing I would have to disagree with on that, and I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, is that phone call is what turned their suspicions onto his brother and put his brother in a bad spot with the rest of the police force. So that would be a bad thing to plan, is, hey, I'm going to call you while you're talking to the detective and tell you not to talk to him and that you need to leave.
Oh yeah, well, I think he didn't think he would get in trouble for doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I think in his mind he thought, you know, it wouldn't be a big deal because it's his brother, and just, you know, the way they kind of like, I don't know, you could just hear about it sounds like it was scripted, like the way he says it, and he's like, oh yeah, man, unless, you know, Brooks was just playing along like that on purpose and his brother
I
didn't
think
plan
Brooks
it.
is just a fake person. And I think he sounds like that probably in everything he says. I mean, if he's, you know, he's got businesses and stuff, and people like that are, you know, if successful people like that, you know, they put up a front, they want people to think a certain way about them, so that way they'll want to do business with them and stuff. And I think that's just a fake front that he probably puts up all the time, honestly.
Yeah.
But
And then
most of the time with murder, I am going to say this, with the exception, which is really not murder, with the exception of self-defense and, you know, your other random things that don't happen very often, most of the time murder boils down to either greed or jealousy, or, you know, you have hate crimes and stuff like that, but most of the time it's greed or jealousy or something along those lines. And I think that's why I think she was probably going to leave. And he just didn't want the embarrassment. He didn't, you know, it happens all the time.
Yeah, possibly. Or he knew he had a lot of money and like properties and stuff, and he didn't want to have to like pay anything. But
I mean, if she was going to leave and smear his name, and he thought that could hurt his family name and hurt his business, I mean, that's enough motive for murder right there for some people.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, for some people, yeah. Yeah, well, I think he's going to be arrested too because of the gun that he sold to the agent unknowingly.
I would like to know what that cop was investigating when he was murdered, though.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, there maybe because he was all right. From what I've heard, he was like the new guy on the scene at work. So, you know, imagine if maybe there was some corruption going on. You know, they're taking evidence and not handing it in and selling it or something, and then the new guy comes along and he's like not in with the whole scheme and possibly could cause problems for them, you know?
Yeah, and new cop, and if he was, I don't know his history before he worked there, but if he was like new out of the academy and a young cop, you know, they're pretty gung-ho anyway. And usually most of them come out the gate trying to do things by the book. I can tell you down there, I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like the whole, not to bring up a totally different case, but it's kind of like with the Delphi case, what the defense is saying about all the corruption and the sheriff lying to get the search warrant and everything. when I heard all that, not a bit of that surprised me, and I would be honestly surprised if it's not true, because I live in a small town in Indiana, an hour away from Delphi, and I can tell you that where I live, that's exactly how the law works. I had a city cop stand at my front door one time and tell me the state of Indiana does not make the laws, we do. And it wasn't a county matter. It was actually a federal matter, not even a state matter. But that's how they operate here. And that's how they operate in small towns, especially down south. So, yeah, it was probably exactly that.
And I do find it a little strange that in the same year they Brooks purchased like 9 houses. Oh, hold on, I'm gonna mute you for a second. It's like air coming through. So. Just unmute when you're ready to talk, Ground Up. I'm gonna play this real quick. It's just Nick talking about the polygraph. He failed the polygraph, and then they have a little conversation about it, but I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I'm just gonna play some of it because it's 44 minutes and we
I want you to listen to one thing. You don't have to say anything to me. You do whatever you want to do. As I said, you may never even be an FBI agent, right? But once you get on the radar, we don't go away. Unless there's a reason to. I thought there would be. You didn't pass this, and there's some other information there as well. So I guarantee you we're not going away. Right. The FBI has unlimited resources in terms of forensic information, electronic information, many bodies that you want to pour out to do surveillance with everything. We will find Crystal. I have zero doubt about that. As a matter of fact, it's going to be one. And inevitably, what's going to happen is one of a couple of things. We'll determine exactly if she's injured and dead, which she in likelihood is. You come to that conclusion yourself. The way that happens and the means in which it happens. Now, I know what your relationship is with your brother. It's a tight relationship, but in a unique kind of way. You have a little different relationship, and it's actually similar to mine and my brother. Close, but in a very different way. And no doubt in my mind.
I do believe they are pretty close because it seems they do a lot of like house flipping together. I mean, at least from what I looked at, like they both have businesses related to that. They're both their names are on a ton of old properties, like previous properties that they've owned. But like I said, in 2013, they bought a lot of freaking houses, like a lot in the same time frame. Like
I'm back. Sorry.
It's okay. It was like 9 houses in like a couple months they bought, which is just crazy to me. And it was in 2013, so it's like, maybe they had that money from flipping other properties, but from what I looked at, it was just like, they bought some here and there, but in that particular time frame, it was a lot of properties that they had purchased in one small time frame. And it's like, where does one get the money to buy like 9 or 10 different properties all in the same couple months? So that is a little suspect to me, but it could, maybe they got a what's it called, like a inheritance or something, but it was very strange that
Did anyone die during that time?
I know their dad died like way later on though, not 2013. I don't know. And then their grandma was, I know she was still alive because they had a grand jury proceeding and she pleaded the fifth because there was a white Buick at the farm when Crystal went missing, and she owned a white Buick and she decided not to testify. And listen to this. So when they had the grand jury proceeding, all his family members brought in recorders and recorded the grand jury, which everyone knows a grand jury is supposed to be private and like super
secretive.
they recorded them on little miniature recorders in their pockets, and the police, when they searched their house, found all of the audio files in jacket pockets.
Yeah, and
Like,
they all pled the fifth though too, didn't they?
I know the grandma did, so I imagine they all did. Yeah.
That's I don't know what screams guilty more than that, I suppose.
They kind of remind me of what's it called? Family. The
Murdoch.
Frables. No, the
Oh,
Frables.
no, the Frables, yeah.
Don't they?
Oh, don't get me started on them. Yeah.
They really give me Frable vibes for sure. Like, just
Oh,
that's so
Yep.
like, why would they even record that? Are they trying to get their story straight? Like, what is going on? And I can I guess grandma would plead the fifth because it's her car, so she doesn't want to be involved, but still, it's shady.
Yeah.
And if they can tie this gun to Nick Houck, that's huge. Like, if he killed Tommy, then they definitely killed Crystal. But the Jason Ellis thing, I'm really curious about, because I could totally see, like, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense in my head. They get into all this money that they're not supposed to have. They buy a bunch of houses. Newcomer Jason Ellis comes around, and he's not hip to the scheme they pull, and maybe complains to somebody or goes to something, and then they knew he's seen too much on a job or something like that.
Yeah.
And
There's been a lot of different theories and such of how the Houck brothers could have potentially been related to Jason Ellis's case. Both professionally and unprofessionally, meaning like he knew something not in a professional standpoint, but also that he could have potentially been investigating them or something along those lines. I was reading through the Reddit today.
I love reading about cases on Reddit. They always
I
have
know.
like, it's so different from like the other platforms. I don't know why, but
I was trying to see. Okay, let me see. I had read something and now I have only like screenshots, of course.
While you're looking for that,
Oh.
I just want to say this. Look at his face in that screen, in that still shot that you have up.
he looks smug as hell. Like, he's not worried about.
And he looks like somebody that would have no problem killing somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He just has that look about him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he killed Ellis. Maybe like you said, he found out something. He took it to the higher ups. You know how people talk. It got filtered down to him.
Well,
he found out that the guy was.
Maybe it was both of them, though, because say Nick is on jobs and he's not handing in evidence, drugs, money that they find on jobs, right? And then they go and they sell the stuff and they make a ton of money and they start buying houses, and things starts getting obvious to Jason Ellis or whatever. That jeopardizes his job and their money, and it jeopardizes Brooke's money because Brooke is investing it into homes and stuff, so he's like, man, this guy's catching on to our scheme or whatever. And then they both, plan it. He follows Jason home, and Brooks is lying in wait in the bushes, and then they do this pretty much the same exact thing to Tommy Ballard. I mean, let's be real, right off the BlueGrass Highway, lying in wait and shoot them. I mean, it's like their MO.
Right.
Well, her dad was definitely shot because he was getting too close. I mean, that's as obvious. That's a brick wall coming right towards you.
Well, Sherry always thought Jason's case was connected, and that was the motive. So maybe Tommy did find something.
Or maybe he found out something on Brooks and he knew Nick was his brother, so he took it to the higher ups and said, hey, Nick's brother, he's into some really shady stuff. Nick found out that he was talking and told Brooks, and they set him up and killed him.
Yep.
Yeah. There was a Reddit post, which obviously I'll say, like, anything from Reddit cannot be necessarily proven or anything like that. It's all conjecture. But they were talking a lot about the internal affairs officer at the Bardstown Police Department, which I don't want to say his name just because he hasn't been convicted of anything. It is out there though. But they were saying that he was shredding documents related to Jason Ellis's murder during like this time frame and was never prosecuted for it. And then he actually ended up, it says, suing the city. I don't know exactly what for because I had only just browsed past it at that time. But that it was like known that he was seen, he spent 2 full days just shredding evidence in the Jason Ellis case. Which is interesting.
Oh,
Then
wow.
you'd have to
Is that the guy they interviewed in the show? The one who was talking about how horrific it was when he like pulled up to the scene and the worst thing that could ever happen to him.
I doubt it just because he's only an internal affairs person. Like I don't think he'd go to a crime scene. But he like worked within the police department. So it would be very interesting if he had some type of outside connection to the Houck brothers. And if that would be just a interesting connection of him potentially,
And it would make a lot more sense as to why they'd be very inclined to fire him over calling his brother if they knew that he was like stealing evidence or doing something like that, because it would make them look bad,
I've spent my whole life living in small towns in Indiana and Kentucky, and you would be surprised how many of these small town police departments have corruption in them. And I'm not saying all cops are corrupt. There's a lot of good cops out there. I know quite a few good cops, but these small towns in the Midwest, oh my God, it's horrible. Like, it's like I was saying with, the whole Delphi thing. I mean, it's bad. We had a crooked sheriff here in the county I live in that just stopped being sheriff about a year and a half ago. And that was because he was in office so long he had reached his limit and couldn't run anymore. But his daughter was a cop for the city department, and the police chief fired her. And the same day that the police chief fired her, her dad hired her to be a cop at the county department because he was sheriff. And Indiana has nepotism laws that says that family can't work in the same departments like that. But her dad was friends with so many people high up in the state that it just got overlooked. And the reason the police chief fired her was because she went on a case that had something to do with kids that was really bad. I don't know what it was. And she had PTSD from it, and she was all messed up in the head. So she could not legally carry a firearm because she had all kinds of mental problems. So, and she couldn't go out on calls anymore because she was so messed up. So they had to let her go. And her dad hired her to be the head of the K-9 unit for the county.
Oh my God.
And this girl's not even legal to carry a firearm.
They got like here in Philly, there was I guess it would be like the mayor or the guy who distributes the funds that you get for the state. We were getting like really bad potholes and the roads were terrible, and people are like, why the hell aren't these getting fixed? Like the streets they're still bad because they haven't caught up. But for years, this guy was pocketing all the money the state gave to like Pennsylvania for fixing the potholes and stuff, or like redoing the streets. So if you think about it, like it would, even I can see it. If you're a cop, right, and you're going on these jobs and you find a stack of money or, kilos or something, I'm sure for some people it's really going to be real hard to pass that up and put it into evidence instead of just, or like a pound of weed, throwing that in your trunk and making thousands of dollars off it. You know what I mean? Like
especially too,
even
like
I would be like, even I would be tempted, Like, damn, that
Yeah,
took
well, I
like
mean,
$4,000, man.
well, especially too, if they're the ones that are making the inventory reports as well. So if they're like, oh shit, there's $20,000. Well, on the inventory report, it's going to say 10,000 was only found. Then there's literally no one looking for this extra money.
Exactly. That's why you guys
Or,
got to watch this documentary,
oh,
The 7-5. It's so crazy,
yeah.
and like it's so like I would not be shocked if this is going on all kinds of places where cops just look the other way,
Yeah.
like, yeah, man,
What's it on again?
and I think it was on Netflix. Hold on,
Okay.
let me look. I'm gonna Google it real quick, and I'll tell you. But it's about the New York cops and how they all got caught. It's like raiding these drug houses and just keeping all of the money, like all of it. It's on they have it on Tubi. They have it hold on. I don't know if Tubi's free, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
But it was wild. Like they would go and raid these houses. They have it on Tubi. It's on Canopy Free, AMC Plus. I guess you can get it on Prime, and
Mm-hmm.
then you can buy it on Apple TV for like
On
$3.99. But
YouTube.
it's wild. Like basically, that's what they were doing. They go drug bust these houses, and they had connects everywhere because, like, for instance, they started selling the drugs. So what they would do is normally people they'd be arresting, they made friends with some criminals and looked the other way so that when they got these drugs, they would have like a main dude they go to sell it off real quick. So it was like
They had
they
a nice
were
working line.
yeah, a nice working line where they looked the other way for criminals and they didn't, arrest them and let them, do whatever they had to do. And they would steal these, go. They were saying they would raid these houses and there would literally be trash bags just filled with marijuana and they would just take them all and then go drop them off to this dude and nobody would ever know. And they made bank. I mean, they were moving in these fancy houses, and then the one guy got addicted to cocaine because they were stealing all the cocaine from all these drug busts and just started going off the rails and being real flashy and real obvious. And then things started to kind of like fall apart for them and they got caught and there was a big conspiracy or not a conspiracy, a big like trial where they all got in trouble, but it was one of the craziest, like most interesting documentaries I've ever seen, and I would not be shocked if it's going on in a lot of. I mean, think about it. Like, how many cops are going to find that stuff? You got to be like a real good person to look away and find a pile of money and not want to take that. You know what I mean?
We had back years ago when I was in my 20s. We had a guy here in town, and he was successful. He had money, but he was a cokehead, and everybody knew he was a cokehead. But he opened a bar, which was a really successful bar at the time. And he bought it and then he changed the name and stuff. But the bar that was in there before had a kitchen and everything. Well, he didn't run a kitchen and everything out of it. So there was a lot of space in the back that he didn't use. And the office and everything was back there too. And he was selling coke out of the back of the bar and everybody knew it and they didn't do anything to him because he was friends with the mayor and this person here and that person here, so it just got overlooked because of who he was friends with.
Exactly.
I mean, that stuff happens in all these small towns. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, and it just so happens that in the year 2013, I'm looking at it right now. I'm going to tell you how many houses he bought. Ownership history. Hold on. All right, December 5th, 2013. That's one. All right, there's one. Okay, so this is the one that I was kind of questioning about Crystal Maupin. So Crystal Maupin is his new girlfriend that he was with after Crystal Rogers, right? So it says Houck Reynolds owned this May 1st, 2006. And then Crystal Maupin was an owner on May 1st, 2006, which is weird to me because she didn't come in the picture, supposedly, until after Crystal, which is 2015. So who was she to him before then?
Yeah.
Like,
Both
why
are
is she...
by the way. That gets confusing.
Yeah. Why is she an owner at around the same time as Brooks? Literally the same date. It says Houck Rentals LLC, May 1st, 2006, and Crystal Maupin, May 1st, 2006. I'm going to look at that report in a second. But all right, so not that one, but we got one so far. All right, Houck Rentals, January 1st, 2013, December 1st, 2013. So he bought, this is the second one he bought in 2013. Same thing, January 1st. It's sometime in that year he bought another one, so that's 3. This one, 2013, that's 4. All right, so this one was 2008, so not that one. And this one was 2008, but in his mom's name. 2013, here another one, 5.
They
Right, so
started
5.
transferring stuff back and forth, though, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, between him and then literally he changed everything to his mom's name in 2018, then back to his name. So I'm on house 6 that he bought in the year of 2013. House 7, 8, 9, 10, this is 2015, 11, 11. This one doesn't give a year. So 11 houses, all in 2013.
That's
So
crazy.
I haven't found any other years where he had bought that many houses. Everything else is like 1 or 2 every other year. So that was like, it's the same year that Jason Ellis was murdered. You know, maybe like they got spooked a little bit and, you know, chilled out now that they got all these places. You know what I mean? Because that's a lot of freaking properties all in 1 year. And
Do they
no,
still
like
have them
no
all?
other. No, well, some of them, but most of them they flipped.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot of money in 1 year. You know what I
Right.
mean? 11 houses. I mean, I don't know if you know you can move houses that fast when you're house flipping, but what money came in that they were able to just boom, 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 all these houses? Because it seemed like I know they owned
Well,
a
and there's not
couple.
enough time in between for the turnaround either, because
Yeah,
it'd make more sense if they potentially, bought the house, put the money into it, flipped it, sold it, then bought the next house. But it doesn't sound like there's enough time frames. They didn't do one a month, so
yeah.
like that's
Like
just
the
not
other
possible.
years, it was like 1 or 2. You know what I mean? So it's just very, very strange to me. And they bought a lot of the homes from this company called Carey and Chowning or something like that,
Mhm.
which I looked into them, but I haven't found a connection to them yet. But I know that they what is that called when you dissolution? They just ended their company or whatever. So
Yep.
maybe it could have been about that, but it is a little weird.
Huh.
I also haven't had a chance to run. So I have this like website where like a lot of times I will look up their like people's emails address, say like, they give you a list of emails. Usually
Mhm.
people use the same email as you would, like you would use the same words and stuff in your email as you would in like a screen name. So,
Mhm.
or if you can even get like an Instagram page, then you can copy that screen name and put it in this thing called Blackbird, and they will give you a list of every website that uses that particular screen name.
Oh, wow.
So like, you know, if you put it like, say you find someone's like Twitter handle, and then you type in the Twitter handle, it'll give you, you know, if TikTok's the same, it'll find their TikTok, it'll find all that. So
Wow.
I can't really find, like, I can only find one email and a thing, but then I ended up finding more, but I can't remember how I found the other emails. I think I wrote them down in a copybook though, so I'll check that out. But I definitely have a lot more to do, but I've been in this hole for like days. I haven't even touched the surface, but that does make me question, you know, if there is a link to Jason Ellis, because the timing
Yeah.
is
You know,
very
it could be that they were responsible for Ellis, and Crystal found out, and Brooks did away with her to keep her quiet too.
Yeah.
well that's the like the rumor, that's what most people think, there's a connection there. Like Crystal's mom believes there's a connection with Jason Ellis, and and her dad had a big bin filled with information that he found. So it makes me wonder, did her mom come to those conclusions because of this box, or does she just, you know, think that's the motive? But I like, besides, you know, her leaving, the only other things I could think of is maybe he was with this Crystal Maupin already, and but I mean, they weren't married or anything, so that's what bothers me. You know what I mean? Like him and Crystal were not married. I get they had a kid, but I don't feel like he would have to pay child support, but there wouldn't, besides that, he wouldn't lose much. Like, he wouldn't have to give up homes or anything like that, you know, as far as I know. So, I don't know. I can't see that as like, I can see if they were married, because, you know, when people are married, then you got to give up half of what you have and all that stuff. But it's very peculiar to me that it was just boyfriend and girlfriend, and
Yeah.
he doesn't seem like a psychopath like that. He seems kind of like more well reserved, or like that it would have to be something that would get him in trouble or something like that for him to
Yeah.
do
Something
something like
selfish.
that. Yeah.
Well, what's weird to me is if she was going somewhere and she was leaving Bardstown, it's weird to me that she took Bluegrass Parkway anyway. I mean, maybe a lot of people do, I don't know, but when I lived down there and I went to Bardstown, I never took Bluegrass Parkway ever.
Well, they said that the bloodhounds were able to track her scent from their home to the farm, but they were never able to track her scent to her car. And
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
yeah,
why I think somebody else drove it there and parked it, because
yeah,
like I said, when I lived down there, I never took the Bluegrass Parkway, because I always took, like, if I was in Elizabethtown and if she was going west, that would have put her going towards Elizabethtown. I always took 62, because it brings you right into Elizabethtown, and the first thing you come to as soon as you hit the edge of Elizabethtown is Interstate 65. So, I mean, unless you're going, like, the Bluegrass Parkway brings you into Elizabethtown, like, all the way on the north end of town. So, unless you were going somewhere that would require you to be all the way on the north end of town, it would be kind of pointless to go that way from Bardstown.
yeah.
That's
I mean,
why I never took it.
I don't know anything about like his temperament or anything like that, but he just seems like a guy who, like, you know, thinks like a chess player or something, you know, like he doesn't seem like he's like a fly off the handle type guy. His brother, on the other hand, though, I get those vibes from Nick Houck. Like I feel like Nick Houck would be the one that does all the dirty work or something. You know what I mean? Like you do the money and I'll do the dirty work, because Nick Houck just looks like one of those, you know, like you said, he got that look like he's
Yeah.
just smug and confident and don't
Doesn't care.
give a crap.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
when I say people down there are nuts, they are. And I'm not exaggerating at all. Like there's a Sam's Club there in Elizabethtown, and I ran the tire shop for that Sam's Club when it opened. I actually got hired before they were still working on the building when I got hired. So they had us out selling memberships, and I was out in that area quite a bit. I mean, we went to Maker's Mark and everywhere, and I had more than one person threaten to shoot me where I was standing just because I pulled up in their driveway and got out of my car, and they didn't know me. Like, people are that crazy down there.
Yeah, that's what I think, Linda, that there was something shady with the money and the house flipping, and that, you know, Crystal probably called on to like, this doesn't make sense. Like he, you know, where did this come from? Where did that come from? But at that point, well, no, Nick was still a cop then. So when he got fired after she was missing. So yeah, you know, she's probably like questioning, where is this money coming from, and how are you buying this, and how are you buying that, and then probably got curious, because hey, if you got a boyfriend who's just, all this money is just appearing out of nowhere, you know, I'm gonna be like, try Snoop, you know, wondering why, you know, where are you getting this, what is this from, like, so maybe she called on to, you know, what they were doing, and maybe Jason Ellis did too, and then maybe Tommy was, you know, figuring it out as well.
Yeah. It wouldn't
But-
Well,
surprise.
and you got to think, if she found out say she found out something that he was doing shady or whatever. I mean, there's not a lot of people she would be able to talk to about it. He's a business owner, a successful business owner. His family is a prominent family in that town. His brother's a cop. So it's not like there's a lot of people you can go to talk to if he's doing something shady. You know what? Because everybody respects him and his family. You know, his brother's a cop, so he's going to get away with a lot of stuff. And if you watch the documentary, he did get away with a lot of stuff. But
well, yeah, there's a lot of people who think there was a lot of corruption going on in the police station, or the police, you know, like that whole thing. Like I've heard a lot of stuff. I've heard all kinds of stuff. The cornbread mafia, the big money gang.
well, I forget where I first watched the documentary at. I don't know if it was on Netflix or where it was. But yeah, like when I think it was like it was a media outlet that did like a documentary on it. And when they went down after she came up missing, they went down there and started, you know, doing investigative reporting and stuff. And I think there was a lot of stuff in that documentary that they brought up that he had done that had been just like overlooked and swept under the rug like it didn't happen. So there wouldn't be a lot of people for her to talk to if she did know something. Maybe she went to Jason Ellis. I don't know. I definitely think that the two are connected. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I agree, Buster. I think everywhere is kind of like that. You know what I mean? Like for the most part, you know, you have good, honest people, and then there's a good, you know, like handful that, you know, you don't hear about anything until something goes down, you know, and then like this is a fairly small town, and it is a little strange, like, you know, that there's all these unsolved things that, well, not a lot, but for a small town it seems like a lot. Like there's another case, the Netherlands, where a woman and her daughter were brutally murdered, but I just can't find a connection with that case, so I didn't.
I know.
Hey,
Yeah,
Russ.
I know. In the documentary, they were talking about how they always had thought that it was some type of drug connection, whether it be the wrong house, whether they thought someone else lived there, or something along those lines. But then you also think back to, was it something where someone approached them about selling their property? They said no, so they took them out, so then it would go for sale, possibly, like something along those lines. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but I think she was buried on that farm, on that spot by the barn where the dogs hit on, and I think she was buried there and then moved. And I kind of, after listening to that, I had never listened to the phone call. I had listened to the phone call where his brother called him several times, or called him when he was in there with the detective. I've listened to that several times. I had never listened to the phone call where he called that guy that worked for him. And now that I think about it, when he called that guy and told him he had some stuff he needed him to help him take care of next weekend, kind of makes you wonder if that's not when they moved the body.
Yeah, well, his son is the one who got arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. So I don't know exactly how it would tie in because, like, I'm assuming that maybe he called there to speak with the son, and maybe, the dad covered for the son. I don't know, but
Yeah, or just said like, "Hey,
like,
you're gonna go help them with this. Go over there now."
or yeah, maybe he was like, hey, yeah, and can you send Joe to the farm or something like that? But I'm thinking along the lines that, maybe he burned her because he talks about how he lit that the fire,
Yeah.
like, why even talk about lighting that fire if wasn't something like if you definitely want to bring that up if you did something with a fire, you want to be like, oh yeah, we lit a fire and hung out by the fire, so that if they go there and they're like, why is there burn marks on the ground or recent stuff,
The only thing is, it is so hard to burn a human body in an open pit like that. And the only reason I say that, not that I know from experience, but if you watch, I'm sure, Kate, you have at least watched this. It's like the Stephen Avery case where they said that he killed that girl and then burned her in the pit next to the
Yep.
garage. And
Yeah.
even the experts told him, you cannot burn a human body that way because the body
There
will
would
not
be
stay
remnants
lit
of it.
because
Yeah.
the fluids and everything from the body will keep the fire from completely destroying the body. That's why when they cremate people, they put them in what looks like a cardboard casket, and then they slide it into the thing, and they crank the flames up so high that literally they run it until there's nothing left but ashes and then a few bones, and then they run that through a grinder until it's nothing but dust. You can't, and if you put a body in an open pit, you would need so much fuel, and you would
it
have
has
to
to
burn
get to a
that for so long.
yeah, it has to get to a very high temperature and burn
Yeah.
for a very long time. But I
Like
mean, even if
they tried saying Stephen Avery used tires for a fuel source, and that guy told him even with there was only the remains of about 3 or 4 tires in that pit, and he said even that, as hot as tires burn, 3 or 4 tires would not be enough to burn a human body.
so there was this beauty queen that was killed. Oh my gosh, I can't think of her name right now. But like a year ago, they had a trial for the guy, and his friend went to trial too because a lot of people think his friend did it. I think his friend's name is Bo. Why can't the guy's name is Ryan something, and he killed. I can't think of the woman's name that was killed, but they burned her at like a pecan farm. The kid's dad's pecan farm. And they said that they did burn her body, but it took days. Like they had to let the fire get so hot that it literally took days to accomplish. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
it would.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but it's a lot of work and a lot of time.
And the likelihood of getting it all is also very low. Like the team would probably stay behind and stuff like that.
I mean,
And
unless he was burning like the clothes and the evidence and stuff, you know what I mean? Maybe something like that, like the weapon and her clothes and stuff like that.
and not to, and I think I can say this without being too graphic, but for those of you who've ever known somebody that couldn't cook or have accidentally overcooked something, fat liquefies. It's hard to burn that.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard to burn a human body. I mean, I know somebody that actually did this. This is kind of funny. I can tell you, hard taco shells that you buy from the store, if you bake them too long, they will turn back into oil.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know
That's
somebody that
crazy.
actually left them in the oven too long and they caught on fire. They turned black and had flames coming off of them. And as they were burning, they were turning into puddles of oil.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
wild.
So that's why it's so hard to burn a human body. If you think of that in cooking terms, fat liquefies when it gets hot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he probably lit a fire for like evidence and stuff. I wonder if they had like pigs there, because I know a lot of people. That's like another thing. Like if you have like pigs. What's the case where the guy beat the girl with a baseball bat? Oh no, he burned her. There was one where the guy literally fed somebody to the pigs, and they never were able to find her because of it. Because pigs will eat just about anything. And sorry, we're getting like totally graphic here,
Pickens?
but if they have pigs there,
That is
yeah,
true. And
Pickens?
pigs will even eat the bones.
Yep.
I was thinking of the guy beat the girl with the baseball bat, and for some reason I thought hogs were involved in that, but then I remember it had something to do with burning her. Remember, it was in like Colorado, and the guy beat her with a baseball bat. They had a little baby. Oh my god, I can't remember. It was around the time of like Gannon's Stout case, but I can't remember that one either because it's
Was
been
it
so long.
Barrett?
What?
Barrett?
I don't think so.
Kelsey Barrett?
Yes, Kelsey Barrett. That's it. I
Okay.
thought they
That
said
was off the
something
top
about
of my head, so
hogs.
I'm very proud of myself.
Yes,
I'm very proud of myself for that one.
I can't believe I could. It's been so long that I can't remember a lot of these names, but I remember the stories. But I feel like they said something about hogs in that too, and I could be wrong, or maybe that was just a rumor.
I don't know. I think of hogs as like, I think of hogs as like the land version of a shark. You know, they say a shark will eat anything. If you cut their stomach open, you find everything in them: trash, bottles, everything else. Hogs are kind of like that. They'll eat anything they can get in their mouth. They'll eat bones.
Yeah.
They'll eat pieces of metal fence wire. I mean, they don't care if they can get it in their mouth. They'll eat it.
They had cows there, but I don't know if they had pigs or not. People are saying Dylan Rounds might have been fed to pigs. Oh yeah. Well, that was there were so many rumors with the Dylan Rounds case, but I still wonder about that because they never. I mean, I think we know what happened there, but like we don't know where he is. Sadly, I don't even know if there's even hogs around there. I mean, considering the situation with Dylan Rounds, like they're in the middle of nowhere. So
Yeah.
but,
I first heard of the Crystal Rogers case. It was the same time I watched that. I watched the documentary about the girl that they found her car up against the fence on the side of the road burned, and she had been burned. And like they found her walking down the side of the road burned up from head to toe, and she collapsed, and she told him the name of the person that did it. I don't know if that sounds
I
familiar
remember
to you,
that, but I
Kate.
can't remember what her name is.
Yeah, I can't remember her name. And they like showed her autopsy pictures in court. And like you could see it. If you paused it, you could see the pictures. And it was pretty gruesome.
so Canadian serial killer
that
Robert.
at the same.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying Canadian serial killer Robert Pinkman fed his victims to hogs.
That's who I was thinking of first. I said
Oh,
Pinkett,
Debbie
though.
Collier, yeah, she tried to like burn herself. I don't know. I still have questions about Debbie Collier. Like that, the fact that they're saying that she tried to set herself on fire, I think is a little strange, and I just don't believe it. But I guess that's what they're going with. Like that's what they officially ruled. But I never felt like she did that to herself because I felt like it was very like an awkward thing to do. But they know more than I do, obviously. He looks smug this entire time. It's 44 minutes, so I'm not going to play it, but they basically confront him and say that he failed the polygraph, that they had grave concerns about his polygraph. And he totally, what do you say? I don't give a goddamn what your effing computer said. That's what he said to the cop. I don't give a goddamn what your effing computer said.
Classy.
About the, I
To your
know.
colleagues, nonetheless.
I just feel like he's like such the opposite of his brother. You know what I mean? Like the way Brooks carries himself and the way he carries himself. They're like on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know, Linda. That's what I said. And it just was like a weird position and everything. None of it made sense to me, but
It's one of them seems calculated, the other one just kind of seems off the hinge.
yeah.
Unhinged.
But anyways, I'm gonna call it a night, guys. But I'm gonna look more into I'm gonna try and look more into like Jason Ellis and see if I can find any connections there or anything about the police, or maybe even if we could find ex-cops who, you know, worked there or something, because I am so invested
Yeah.
to find out more information about this. And I have so many more videos and stuff to show, but we just got on to talking so much tonight that I didn't even show them.
That's my fault. I do it every time.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I go on tangents every time I go live, and then I end up going off topic. But we'll just have a couple parts to this,
Yeah.
and just completely break it down, and we'll reconvene and do more of it, because I am really like so invested in finding a connection between all this now.
Oh yeah. Me too. Well, yeah,
Funny
thank you for
update.
having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on, both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yep, and Mallory's channel is in chat if anyone wants to
Thank
please
you.
sub to her. Yeah, her link's there. Make sure you sub to her. She's really good, and we'll definitely reconvene and do this again.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much.
And thanks for coming up again, Ground Up. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thank you. Sorry
Yeah.
it's been so long.
No, it's okay. It happens.
I've been actually working on stuff for my channel, so.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, check out Ground Up Garage too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Have a good night, everyone. Bye. Thank you for coming up.
Bye. Thank you.
Great.